What's going on, y'all, man? Welcome back to the live. Today, we talking about Oregon. Is the Ducks ducking the smoke? Is the question for today's live. I believe to a degree, Oregon is ducking that smoke. All right, so they changed their schedule. That has nothing to do with the 2026 schedule. This is for the future and who they're going to obviously play and go toe to toe with. To me, I feel like they're ducking the smoke a little bit. All right. Some people going to say, well, Naj, they think about the future, the easiest path to the playoffs, so forth and so on, because the playoffs is now the big barometer, obviously now the big test of what teams are measuring themselves up to be. Correct. So let's look at what Oregon did and if we think they're ducking some smoke. All right. So we're going to go ahead and start with Oregon getting caught ducking. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. So here it is right here. Okay. Oregon got caught ducking. Oregon really swapped for Coastal Carolina. Now, nobody would notice. Maybe it's smart scheduling. Maybe it's protecting the playoff path. But fans always say they want big games until their team starts cutting them. Was this move soft AF or smart? All right. So as you guys know, they dropped Baylor. Now Baylor has not been as good the last few years, right? We know they got the big guy, DJ Lagway, who's obviously expected to be the starter this upcoming year for the Baylor Bears. But we know the last few years, like Baylor hasn't been as good as people would think. They've struggled a little bit. Obviously, they've always been a program entrenched in scandal. But this is a team that is kind of still finding out, learning itself, playing in the Big 12, which is a wide open conference, and obviously trying to figure it out, right? So they dropped Baylor. And like we said, they ended up replacing Baylor with Coastal Carolina out of the Sun Belt, right? And a team that I would say usually is pretty competitive in the Sun Belt, right? Usually plays pretty good, if I had to say, in the Sun Belt Conference, right? Now, it's a little bit different, obviously for a Sun Belt team playing a Power Four opponent, right? And we've seen kind of what happened last year. Tulane playing obviously, against I believe it was Ole Miss, James Madison playing Oregon, right? There's a level of difficulty when you're trying to bring a team and trying to play up to that type of competition. Now, upset is upset, right? But playoff lives on the line, win or go home situations and scenarios, it's a totally different thing, right? So I do think that Oregon is ducking some smoke, right? But I do think this is a reality that more teams are going to have to face, right? Do you play the big game team and opponent, or do you decide, hey, let me instead think about what would help us more get into the playoffs, right? And the committee has shown, even though the SOS is big time, strength of schedule, right? That doesn't necessarily always matter, right? It doesn't necessarily always mean a good thing, right? So the strength of schedule is something that they obviously look at, but we know that the committee is subjective, excuse me. So to a degree, right, can't really blame Oregon for this in deciding to, hey, you know what, instead, we're gonna go for Coastal Carolina, right? Still ducking smoke because Coastal Carolina is not on the same level of a Baylor, but at the same time, I get it, right? And we're seeing this problem currently right now with Texas Tech, and obviously, the teams are going to play in Texas. The reason I bring up that point is we see Texas Tech wants to smoke, right? They want to play Texas, right? They felt they got called out by Steve Sarkisian, who felt like they would win with their twos and the threes and go undefeated for what Texas Tech is playing. And the Red Raiders said, "Hey, you know what? We'll cancel and we'll buy out the Abilene Christian and Texas State teams to play Texas Week 1." But like I said in my other video, the likelihood of that happening is not very high, right? Why would I deschedule that and I don't have Ohio State Week 2? It doesn't make a lot of sense, right? And even though it's a Big 12 opponent and we know they're better, they're good, it's like, why would I risk that for my team knowing what the schedule we're going to have, not SEC opponents? It's like, why do that? So I think you're going to see more of these teams make this decision. We've seen it with Georgia, and obviously I think it was Florida State cancel their home and home series, right? And I think they're going to do just one game on a neutral site. So these teams are going to run into this issue more. And the whole thing of college football is you want to see the biggest games. You want to see the good non-region opponents or non-conference opponents. And you want to see them go toe-to-toe. You want to see the best games in ball, right? You don't want to see these makeshift FCS type games, even though Sun Belt is not FCS. It's FBS, but it's on Group of 5 level. Even though you don't want to see that, it's probably going to be more of a reality, right? And if you Oregon, you have to protect your path to making the obviously college football playoff, right? And losing to a Baylor doesn't really look as good. Now, Coastal Carolina, likelihood of you losing that is very slim to none, right? You're not going to lose to Coastal Carolina if you're Oregon with how you recruit, talent you bring in, all that good stuff. The likelihood of you losing to that team is not very high. But compared to losing to the other team, that is a little bit higher. So I get it. It runs risk. I still think they're ducking smoke a little bit, but you can't blame these teams when it's happening all around the country. Alabama, different teams obviously scheduling and decided to change their schedule of who they're going to obviously play, right? And you don't want the risk anymore, right? You don't want the risk anymore. You don't want to lose. You don't want your team to struggle essentially because of it, right? So is the move smart or soft, right? Still think they're ducking smoke. Still think they're ducking smoke. But I will say it is a smart move in this regard. You are protecting your team, and obviously you play in the Big Ten. For the Big Ten, for the most part, you're going to probably have 3 or 4 teams that are at the top, right? Predominantly, it's going to probably be Oregon, Michigan, Ohio State. You can obviously throw in there USC for the most part. Anything can change. We'll see if Purdue ever becomes good. Got to throw in Indiana as well as another team. So 4 to 5 teams predominantly you can expect to be good. But the Big Ten is very top heavy. It hasn't been talked about enough. So if you Oregon, why complicate that in my non-conference schedule when I could play a cupcake team and potentially win and have an easier path to the CFP playoff? To me, that makes more sense of doing that if I'm an Oregon Duck or if I'm an Oregon Duck fan, right? Why risk it? So I would say soft move. Soft move, duck and smoke, but also smart because you got to look out for the best interests of your team, and it has to make sense. If I'm being humble and honest, it has to make sense. And I think for Oregon, this makes a lot of sense of what they want to do and what they want to do in the future, right? So soft move, but duck and smoke a little bit. But at the end of the day, Oregon is protecting their best interests, which is obviously getting to a CFP playoff. That's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? So you guys comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of obviously this move. Smart, soft, call it what you will. But I think you will see a lot more teams decide to do this in the future. Again, this game doesn't matter as far as this year, but going into the future, not playing Baylor anymore. But hopefully we don't see this ruin some of the great intrigue and games that we get early on in college football. Hopefully we get to see more of these games in the future more prevalently. But with these 9-game conference schedules, the attrition, how these teams get banged up, we might see this even more often and them electing to play a lower opponent. But y'all know what to do. This wasn't a long live. Nice, short, and sweet. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Let me know videos that you want to see. Try to have lives, you know what I'm saying, basically every day or every other day for you guys, and just continue to have content for the channel, man. So how about the video? I will see you guys in the next one, and always appreciate you tuning in. Until next time, peace.